Well, we're back right here in the studio, and we have with us right now Dr. Sulaiman Marafie. And Dr. Sulaiman is a scientist at the Biochemistry and Molecular Biology Department at Dasman Diabetes Institute. Dr. Sulaiman, good evening and welcome to our program, Ya Hala Kuwait.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you with us, Dr. Sulaiman. And maybe first off, you could tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you went to school, and your major, please.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm part of the Biochemistry and Molecular Biology Department, which is part of the research sector at the Dasman Diabetes Institute. I would go with my undergrad. So I did my undergrad at Kuwait University, the Faculty of Science. I majored in molecular biology, and then went on to follow on my postgraduate education in the UK. So I did my master's in molecular cancer at part of the University of Leicester, and then moved on to my PhD in cell biology at the University of Manchester, also in the UK.
So, Dr. Sulaiman, tell us, when did you realize that you liked science and research?
I guess it goes back to the high school days, I guess, because there was a new curriculum introduced as part of the biology subjects, and it was just recently introduced the Mendelian genetics topic. And it was my first conception of DNA and genes and how they would be inherited and passed from one generation to another. It was a new idea for me back then, so I think I was fascinated with that idea from the very beginning. And then moving on to during my bachelor's, we delved deep into the more detailed science of molecular biology and the biology of the cell itself. So the formulation of the idea of scientific research, troubleshooting, since we had a lot of practical lab sessions, lengthy lab sessions, we started troubleshooting and starting to develop the critical thinking. I guess during that period, I also made my decision to actually pursue this career and the subject and go all the way to I had an idea of I'm going to continue doing my PhD in this field. So I guess it goes back from the high school and stretch all the way to the undergraduate.
Amazing, that's great. From an early age, you're very interested in science and research. And Dr. Sulaiman, please tell us a little bit, tell our audience about the research that you do and conduct at Dasman Diabetes Institute, please.
Sure. So basically, the research I do in Dasman picks up on where I left from my PhD days. And basically, I focus on what we call as the signaling pathways in the cells. So these are basically how cells communicate and talk to each other in order to have, form their functions and have their cellular functions. So those communications happen through proteins. So my focus in Dasman as part of the department is at the cellular and molecular level, where we look at genes and proteins and how the cells basically talk to each other using those proteins to communicate and interact physically even together. So for normal functions, you would have those signaling pathways. They're important for normal growth and cellular functions. But at the same time, those signaling pathways are exploited or damaged in human diseases, which includes diabetes, which is our focus in Dasman, and other metabolic diseases. So my role as part of the department is basically I look at those genes and proteins, where the malfunction has gone, and what causes this miscommunication between cells, which eventually leads to disease development. Another aspect as well as part of my research is that since we work with diabetes and insulin signaling, the main hormone that is released by the pancreas, we have specific pancreatic cells in the lab, which basically mimic their function and role as a normal human pancreas and pancreatic cells. So what we can do is in the lab, we can change the environment of these cells to an environment that copies the environment of the patients with diabetes, so we can easily understand what's going on wrong within those cells, study the proteins, do certain treatments, and we call them rescue experiments, trying to revive the cellular functions and hopefully get the cells back to their normal status, basically. And obviously, this is what we call a basic science in terms of research. And our goal is always to work on those basic science concepts, publish them in peer-reviewed journals, and hopefully in the future, those ideas of basic science gets translated into more therapeutical strategies. So that's the ultimate goal, basically.
Dr. Sulaiman, you also recently took part in a workshop at the Kuwait Foundation for the Advancement of Sciences, KFAS. Can you tell our audience how that experience was?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the conferences that I attended recently was a collaboration between KFAS and Kuwait University. And basically, the goal of this conference was to communicate science to the community. It was a great opportunity, basically, to interact with different people from different sectors.
Okay.
It was a good opportunity to exchange knowledge and information, and basically try to get the younger researchers engaged into science and get them understand the process of scientific research, how to apply for grants and proposals, and basically show them the importance of science here in Kuwait and also internationally. So it was a good opportunity to exchange ideas, break down complicated scientific ideas into more simpler ones. And a huge part of all conferences basically is networking.
True.
Because networking with other peers, that's where you form your collaborations. And the research is all about collaborating, because you can't do research on your own. You need your other peers to have a good a collaborative environment. And basically, it will excel your research forward.
Very well explained and said there, Dr. Sulaiman. So how does KFAS support the research efforts at DDI?
KFAS always supports research in general, whether that's in DDI or in Kuwait, which we're really grateful for. They provide the main funding bodies for our grants and research in Dasman. And it's very clear from their initiatives of conducting those workshops, whether that being seminars or lectures, they acknowledge the importance of research and scientific research in general. And that basically is important to promote research and encourage people, and to emphasize that you need to move forward with research and to have those breakthrough ideas. So we're very thankful for their contribution and their continuous support. I also recently, a couple of years ago, I applied for one of their conferences in Japan, where it gave me an opportunity to basically communicate and network with
Good to hear that.
Nobel laureates, basically. And it was an amazing and very unique opportunity where you would have a chat and exchange ideas with those giants of science and listen to their perspective. And also, again, coming back to the point of networking and collaborating.
True. That must have been very fruitful, Doctor.
Definitely, yes.
Good to hear that. And I know you have a very fine team of management at Dasman Diabetes Institute, led by Dr. Faisal Hamid Al-Rifai, the Acting Director General, who encourages the young Kuwaitis and scientists to move forward.
Definitely, yes. So our Acting DG was always supportive of excelling and promoting our ideas, by that as in applying to international conferences. He also emphasizes on career development and gives us the positive energy, basically, to ensure that we excel in our fields, and is very supportive with sending us to all those conferences and workshops, and is really we're really grateful. And also, I'd like to say, like, our Chief Scientific Officer, which is Professor Fahd Al-Mullah, who is also supportive and always pushes us and allowing us to thrive in our research, and is always open to different scientific ideas, and has our back basically to support us in terms of research, and he always encourages us to publish in those high peer-reviewed impact factor journals, and also apply for conferences basically to showcase the research that's going on in Dasman, emphasizing the importance of Kuwait and DDI and KFAS and the research community basically. So I'd like to say a special thank you to both of them. So once you have those different perspectives of scientific and administrative, it just pushes the research forward all the way. So we're really grateful for that.
Well, that's great to hear. And you do have great leadership at Dasman Diabetes Institute, which is founded by the Kuwait Foundation for the Advancement of Sciences. You're doing some amazing research, a lot of great projects that you're all working on. At the end of our interview, Doctor, do you have any last comments for the audience who are watching right now?
Yes, I guess would be like, I would encourage the younger generations of scientists or researchers to like hold on to the idea of scientific research, because it's important not just for, let's say, disease curing, and it's an important tool to develop your critical thinking at an earlier age. And here in Dasman and DDI, we have an amazing summer internship program where students from around the world can apply and get an idea for an 8-week program on how to engage as part of scientific research. So I would say I would encourage the younger generations to do that and get engaged into science the same way that I did from an earlier age, basically.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we wish yourself and your colleagues at Dasman Diabetes Institute all the best of luck in your future endeavors, and keep up all the good work that you're doing.
Definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.
You too.
We'd like to thank our guest, Dr. Sulaiman Marafie, scientist at the Biochemistry and Molecular Biology Department at Dasman Diabetes Institute, for his time with us this evening right here on the program. We are going to go to our next report, and it's an awareness campaign for the right to occupational safety. So let's take a look at this report. Stay tuned.